The American League Division Series is here. The Twins have swept
Cole,
the Blue Jays.
I got to make a call quick. Hold on.
Oh,
yeah, Houston?
right.
Yeah, you got a problem. His name's Royce Lewis.
It has been many, many years of absolute heartbreak, and now we have to go and face the big bad Houston Astros after sweeping the Toronto Blue Jays, who most people did not pick us to win that series either because the Blue Jays had a better record, even though we were at home. But now we have to face last year's World Series winner. You got to beat the best to be the best, right? But as Minnesota sports fans, I think we're all happy. I think everybody is excited. Everyone is not expecting, the past years, the sweeps. This is not the Houston Astros of 2017. They have put the garbage cans away, right? I mean, this is a little different team. They don't have Carlos Correa. Yes, they won a World Series last year. They have all that pedigree. They have all those championship rings in that locker room. But so do we. We got a few. I mean, we got the veteran presence. We got the rookies. We have the pitching staff. This team, this Minnesota Twins team, is built to win a World Series, to win in October. That's what everybody's talking about now. They all see how hot we are. The underrated team is slowly becoming the rated team. And this is what we wanted, isn't it, Alex? This is right where we want to be.
Yeah, we got the whole baseball world watching us right now, and for good reason. I mean, the Twins have been playing some great ball of recently. And like you said, it's just they're hot right now. And one of the most important things in the playoffs is getting hot at the right time. And the Twins are doing that. And it's just an exciting time to be a Twins fan for sure.
It is very exciting to be a Twins fan. And I think you said it best on the last podcast. You said, I think we have America's back right now. I think we have even more than America's back. I think we have Canada's back. I think even Toronto fans are going to be cheering for the Twins. I think everybody is slowly starting to come around and say, you know what? Minnesota deserves it. They need this. And nobody likes Houston. So that makes it even easier to jump on the Minnesota Twins bandwagon for all you fans out there who maybe haven't been on our side of things before. Welcome. Welcome to Hot Dish Sports. Please subscribe. We talk everything Twins. Today we're going to get into the pitching staff of both teams. We're going to compare and contrast hitters, pitchers, bullpens, you name it. We're going to be pulling up stats. We're going to be taking a look at FanGraphs, at RotoWire. We're going to go through everything. So if you're looking to preview the Twins, you come to the right place. And the Astros, of course. If we got any Astros fans that are watching, we tend to get some of those guys in the comments at times. But welcome. All right. I don't know about you, but do you want to... I kind of feel like we want to start out talking about the starting pitching staff. I know I have the depth charts pulled up here, but we'll get into that a little bit because I think the most important thing is who is going to be starting game one for Minnesota. We already know the answer for Houston. They've already announced that Justin Verlander is taking game one. Framber Valdez is taking game two. So now we're just sitting here waiting to find out who is going to start in Minnesota. And I don't know if you have an idea, Alex, on who you think's going to start, but it's obviously down between Bailey Ober, Joe Ryan, Kenta Maeda. It's going to be one of those three. I don't think Pablo's going on short rest. That's for sure, because you got a long enough series where you could possibly even get an extra start out of him from Sunday to, Friday would be the fifth game. So I don't know. What do you think? Who's going to start this first game for the Twins?
Yeah, I feel like you got to go with the sexiest man in baseball, Joe Ryan. There's no reason not to. I feel like, yes, he did struggle a bit the second half of the season, but we know what he's capable of, and I think you got to go with your best arm, and I feel like that's Joe Ryan in this situation. Let Pablo rest up. I mean, one of the Astros' biggest advantage in the series is they've had a week of rest. All their guys are 100% ready to go, whereas, some of our arms are still recovering from the past series. So I think that's getting a good showing out of Joe Ryan. If we can get 6, maybe 7 solid innings out of him, I think that's a huge plus.
I agree. And Joe Ryan, he's no longer a rookie anymore. He's been there. He kind of, and now he's gotten to watch the playoffs. He's got to be a part of that excitement, that energy in the stadium. He's not coming out for game one of the original series. This is game one of the ALDS. This is in Houston. This is a whole different atmosphere. I think he can handle it. The only issue is his home runs and allowing home runs. Is that the second half of the season especially let up a lot more home runs than we're used to seeing from Joe Ryan. And as you can see here on FanGraphs, he lets up 1.78 home runs on average per 9. And that could be a difference maker when you're facing guys like Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez. I mean, even Jeremy Pena, anybody, you name it, but especially Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez, I think are going to make or break this entire series. And they are the ones that I don't fully trust Joe Ryan against. So I wouldn't be surprised, yes, if Joe Ryan goes out there, starts the game, makes it through the full order, hopefully without doing anything. But if you allow Yordan Alvarez or Kyle Tucker to face Joe Ryan a second or especially a third time in the order, I don't feel so good about that anymore. I think that's where big decisions have to be made by Rocco. We have always complained about him pulling pitchers early. I know a lot of Toronto Blue Jays fans, probably all of them, are complaining about Barrios getting pulled early. I don't think it was on the level of Blake Snell, but it wasn't necessarily probably the right move. So if you get to that third, fourth inning and he's coming up to face Yordan Alvarez and it is a tight game, but Joe Ryan is absolutely dealing, you leave him in. But if he has any kind of issues with control, or you see some hits, like some of those hits, like Vlad had off of Griffin Jacks, where he's just ripping it out to the outfield, could have been a home run, or Matt Chapman's hits. Some of those you're starting to see, maybe they do turn into outs. I think that's where you shorten that leash on Joe Ryan and you go, hey, we got Bailey Ober. I would not be surprised to watch Bailey Ober start this game. He's dominant. I mean, if you look at his home runs per 9 here, he's got 1.37, and his strikeout ratio is very comparable to every other starter on this lineup. He had a great year. He walks people less than anyone in our starting lineup, and that's what you need is no base runners in this game because this lineup is dangerous. His ERA, 3.49. He's got 3.96 FIP, xFIP 4.2, better than, I mean, that's a little, yeah, but I mean, either way, he's got a better ERA than Joe Ryan, better ERA than Kenta Maeda, better than Pablo even. I would not be surprised to see Bailey Ober, but I do like that the Twins are not announcing it yet. It's giving Houston's having to figure out who they're going to face, and they're going to have to learn on all three of these guys because they might face all three in game one. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and I mean, you got a 5-game series though, so you got to be managing these arms and using them accordingly. As much as we'd love to throw Pablo and Sonny every game, it's just not a reality in the baseball playoffs. So it's going to take all three of those guys stepping up and eating some big innings, and if they can do that, they put this Twins team in a great spot to win.
Yeah, and one thing not a lot of people are talking about is Houston at home is not good. And by not talking about, I mean people in Minnesota, but Houston at home is really, people are afraid of playing there. But this year they're under 500 when playing at home, and they're way better on the road, which I don't care about that because I think that's a totally different atmosphere in the playoffs when you're on the road. But at home, if they're already struggling there in Houston, that might be an advantage for the Twins. And this is not as good of a Houston team in my mind as the team that won the World Series last year. They have some flaws. Justin Verlander, yes, he's on the team, but he's a whole nother year older. I don't know. I really think that we can win this game. And we should take a look at Justin Verlander actually really quick. What do we got going here? All right, here we go. 3.22 ERA. I'm really curious to what is against lefties and righties. I mean, against lefties, he's got a way better ERA than righties. And we have a lot of lefties on this team. So that's kind of my big concern is what is Rocco going to do with the splits? Obviously, you're going to see Jorge Polanco. He's a switch hitter. He's going to be going out there batting righty. But I think this lineup is definitely going to change from what we saw against Toronto just because of how good Verlander is against lefties. But at home, I mean, he's pretty much the same pitcher at home or away. He's got basically the same record, pretty much same ERA and WHIP. So I don't see any concern there. But oh wow, he's really good during the day. That's going to be fun. Got a day game on Saturday. So some of these stats you look at and you're just like, he's got a 1.53 ERA during the day, and he's got a 3.59 ERA at night. Like, how does that happen? I know it's a much smaller sample size in these day games. It's only 5. Maybe he was facing Kansas City and Detroit each of those games. But, some guys, I guess, just perform better during the day. And it'll be interesting whether the roof is open or not in Houston as well, because that can impact how pitchers pitch too.
It's crazy how all those little factors that affect the game that are different about each ballpark can make such a large difference for some players.
Right. And Joe Ryan is kind of similar as well. Like if you look at his away ERA, he's got a 5.22 away ERA and a 3.83 home ERA. So maybe you consider going with, let's take a look at what Bailey Ober's got going here. Bailey Ober's pretty much spot on, whether he's home, away, day or night. It's all about a 3.3 to 3.8 ERA. It's very similar. So I'm kind of leaning in the boat. I love me some Joe Ryan. Don't get me wrong. But I think Bailey Ober might be the way to go to start this first game. And when this is a big decision that Rocco's got to make. And I am sure glad that we're on a podcast talking about it, because I don't know. I definitely do not think that Kenta Maeda starts this game, because he is clearly shown that he's successful in the playoffs out of the bullpen, much more than Bailey Ober or Joe Ryan have ever showed in the playoffs in their experience. Kenta Maeda has been there, done that. He's been successful. They're going to use him out of the bullpen as a long relief to follow one of these two guys, in my opinion. I don't think we see all three in this game. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, like you said. We got to kind of maintain those arms.
Yeah. Well, and what a good problem for us to have. We got three great guys that you could make a strong argument should start the game. And
right.
That's a good spot to be, especially being the Twins, who it seems like in past years we just never had any kind of pitching. So it's refreshing for sure.
Oh, big time. In past years, we're rolling out, Randy Dobnak, or I remember back in the day, Boof Bonser going into a game, and you're just like, oh, really? I mean, I know they're professional pitchers, and if I met them in person, love them. But they're not Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, Kenta Maeda, Pablo Lopez, Sonny Gray. What a great rotation that we've built here in Minnesota. I'm super happy about it. Kenta Maeda has an amazing ERA on the road. Maybe they should start Bailey Ober and then roll out Kenta Maeda, save Joe Ryan for game 4 if you have the lead. And if not, I mean, use him in relief somewhere. I don't know. This is quite the conundrum we've got going. But these two teams are very comparable in pitching, in my mind. I still think you have to give the Twins the edge in the pitching category because of our bullpen, I think, is better than theirs. I think, of course, they have Ryan Presley, former Twin. They have Hector Neris has been amazing this year, and I think it's Abreu. They've got some guys out of their pen that have been really good, but they also have, Stanek and a couple guys that have some question marks, where I think the Twins have a lot less of that. I do think our big question marks were Griffin Jax, Emilio Pagan. He's come around in the last couple months. He has had some games that makes you want to just bang your head against a wall. So is Griffin Jax, but they are very strong pitchers, and maybe they're playoff pitchers. Maybe they need that intensity. Maybe that's what they've been looking for. So I still think you got to give the bullpen edge to Minnesota. You got to give the starting pitching edge to Minnesota. Justin Verlander's just too old. Framber Valdez is amazing. He did throw a no-hitter this year, but his second half was okay. Wasn't the best, so he's got some issues. And same with Christian Javier. He's not the guy that we've seen in the past. He's still a great pitcher, but I think they use him in a situation like we're talking about with Joe Ryan and Bailey Ober here, or Kenta Maeda. I don't think we're going to see Christian Javier throwing too many innings. Maybe they bring Hunter Brown in after him, but for game 3, that is at home in Minnesota. He just got too many question marks. Dude, this is a flawed Astros team, Alex. There is plenty of room for a Twins sweep, a Twins win. They have to win at least one of these games. They cannot get swept, because now you're just starting a whole new new streak, and we do not want that. That is number 1 in this situation. I would say do not end this series with another losing streak.
Yeah, no, at bare minimum, at least get one. Please don't get swept. Right. But yeah, this Astro team, it is flawed, but at the helm, you still got Bregman, Altuve, Verlander, Kyle Tucker, Yordan out. Like the star power is there, and they're not to be taken lightly by any means. But if there's going to be a year for the Twins to have a shot at taking him down, I feel like this is one of the best chances we've had.
Yeah, for sure. I think looking at their depth chart too, I'm curious to who they end up putting in center field. I assume it's going to be Christian McCormick, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Myers or Dubon as well, depending on who we end up starting, because I think McCormick's splits are a little off. And same with catcher. That could be another interesting spot for them, because Martin Maldonado, he's kind of like Christian Vasquez, I would say, for us. Like, he's a defensive catcher. Yeah, he has some offense to him. Diaz has even more offense to him, but he's younger, kind of like Jeffers. So they kind of have a similar Christian Vasquez Jeffers split. So I would say at catcher, I'd still have to give the Twins a little bit of an advantage, because even though, yes, Maldonado has won he's won a World Series, so has Christian Vasquez. And I think Jeffers is better than either of those guys, all three of those catchers. So I think you see Jeffers in the lineup again with Vasquez. Oh, we got Lily's coming in to say hi. She did this last time, and it was good luck for the Twins, so we had to have it happen again. Yeah, she's going outside. All right. But anyway, all right, so catcher, I think you give advantage to the Twins. First base, you like Jose Abreu or you like Alex Kielaroff? Who are you
that's
taking?
Tough.
You get right? You got experience. Versus
which in the playoffs is king. Power. But, the playoffs
are a lot of playoff experience though. Did he ever make it?
I guess that's
the
true.
First round? He's only ever played for the White Sox until this year, and he had a pretty bad year until later in the second half. Almost like historically bad year. So I don't know.
Yeah,
he's just a veteran that's probably, mentally he can handle it, but he did switch teams and he didn't handle the switch super well. He struggled. It took him like 2.5 months, I think, to hit a home run with the Astros. It took a long time, but he can definitely be a guy that can go off on you as well. But so can Kielaroff. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think I lean Minnesota here. You want to call this a coin flip?
Yeah, 50-50.
Call it a toss-up. They both have their own advantages.
Right.
What about second base?
I think that one's pretty easy.
Yeah, Edward Julian. Yeah, Polanco. You got to go Altuve. Polanco, yeah. Yeah. Polanco's at third. We'll compare Bregman and Polanco later, but we got Royce Lewis potentially. But yeah, second base, obviously. This is the difference between these Twins and the Astros, is they've got the stars and we've got the depth.
Yeah.
I really feel like we've got the young power, the depth, the guys who, if you look at their runs created plus, like the Twins are actually higher because maybe they don't have as much games under their belt this year. We used our IL appropriately this year, I think. We had guys go up and down in the minors and coming up, and they're all finally getting hot at the same time, where the Astros have guys like Altuve and Bregman and Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez. All have more RBIs for each one of them than anybody on this Twins roster by a lot. Yeah. So the stars are kind of the ones that are going to make or break this series for them, where the Twins, they need to spread the love out. We can't have anybody doing, the same kind of things like Vladdy was doing for the Blue Jays or Kevin Biggio or Dalton Varsho. They were just useless, it felt like, in the division or in the wild card game for the Blue Jays. So the Twins cannot have that happen. They need to find a way to spread out the love, put out offense, just get base runners on, play a little tight money ball. You don't need to beat the Astros by out homering the Astros. You need to beat the Astros by getting more runners on base and having some good luck home run or, extra base hit power when that happens, I would say. And shortstop, you got to give it to Carlos Correa. I know Jeremy Pena had a great rookie year, was the World Series MVP. Cool. But we have Carlos Correa. He got his 60th RBI in that Twins game. 60th. No, not this season. 60th in the playoffs. He has as many playoff RBIs as he basically did this season. He had 65 or just under 70, I think, by the end of the year. Isn't that wild?
How old is he?
Correa's 29. He just turned, I believe.
It's unreal.
It is. pretty awesome. So Correa at shortstop, you got to give us the advantage, and that's our 1-star, and he leads this team. He's like a manager on the field. You need him. I think he does a lot more for the Twins than Jeremy Pena does for the Astros. But that's why I lean that way. And then at third base, what do you think about Royce Lewis? How's his hamstring going to be? We've had guys on our softball team with hamstring injuries. They come back. They can still, I mean,
he was pitching.
He can swing a bat. That's true. But Royce Lewis proved he can swing the bat. He is going to be in this lineup. Did. He will be batting third, guarantee it. But will he be at third?
Yeah, and that just comes down to how healthy is he? How much can he move around? How explosive can he be? Because defensively at third, I mean, they call it the hot corner for a reason. You have to be really quick on your reaction time and getting to balls. So if that hamstring's a problem at all, I think you got to keep him at DH, as good of a fielder as he is. But if he's healthy, if he can move, yeah, I think you got to get him over there, move Polanco back to second, DH Julian. But yeah, I think he's in the lineup either way.
I agree. Showed that. He's for sure in the lineup either way. But man, if we have him at third base instead of Polanco, I think that's huge. Polanco is great at second. It's so hard to transition positions. I mean, you played baseball. I mean, just even switching from, say, center field to right field when you're in like middle school, the ball just travels differently. It's the same thing, switching from second to third. I don't care if you're in the pros or if you're in high school baseball, that is not an easy transition, especially to make when you're in the playoffs. And so I was not mad at Polanco for some of the errors that he made, some of the miscues that happened. That's going to happen, but you need his bat in this lineup. And he's been with this team since he was 16 years old. He deserves it. He's earned it. He plays plenty well enough. It's not like you're just putting him in there because of that, and that's kind of the same thing with, we're talking about injured guys. We have to talk about Buxton before we kind of dive into the outfield, because if Buxton is in this lineup, you got to DH him. You're not going to put him in center field. Michael A. Taylor earned that spot in center field. He will be out there. Houston center field is pretty big. They don't have the hill anymore, but he's got a lot of ground to cover, and he deserves it. And he's won a World Series before. He's been there, done that. You have to put him in center field. But let's just say Buxton says, "Hey, coach, I'm ready to go." And you are Rocco, Alex. What are you going to say to Byron Buxton?
He's in the lineup. He's one of our best hitters, one of our best defensive players. I see no reason to keep him out of the lineup. This is October baseball. You got to be playing your best guys, and a guy like Buxton, you have to fit him into the lineup any way possible. If that means you have to not have Julian or Polanco in your lineup, maybe you take Kepler out of right, put Buxton over there. Either way, if Buxton's healthy and ready to go, you got to play him.
I agree. I think honestly, if I would bet a lot of money that we will not see Buxton in the outfield unless it's the World Series. I don't think they're going to risk any kind of injury anytime before that. It doesn't make sense. They didn't do it all year long. And like we said about Polanco at third, jumping into a position, even if you've played that position your whole life, but if you didn't play it all year, I don't think he even played at the Saints. I don't believe he ever took any balls in center field other than just practicing. That is not going to be that easy to do, because you have to remember how the field is, where the wall is. You got to retrack everything again, and the conditions. And there's just so much that goes into playing the outfield. Don't think we see him in the outfield. But you're right. If you put him in this lineup, you have to probably take out either Julian or Polanco. I kind of lean, and that also means that Royce Lewis is playing third, because if Royce Lewis says he can't play third, I don't think you put Buxton on this roster. If Royce Lewis says I can only DH, are you going to still take Buxton and put him in the lineup?
I mean, even as a pinch runner, a pinch hitter, I don't think he finds his way into the lineup then, unless you have him try a new position. But if he's healthy, I see no reason to keep him off the roster.
Yeah. I mean, you could replace him, or you could replace Stevenson was on the roster for the wild card. Stevenson was basically on the roster just in case Royce Lewis got into second base with 2 outs and we're down by 1 in the bottom of the ninth. You're bringing in Stevenson. He's faster. He can run. Like, that's the guy. But I know Buxton's super fast. But again, like, if he can't run, then that's the thing. But if he can run and he can keep up with Stevenson, then for sure replace him with Stevenson, I think.
Yeah.
No shot that Nick Gordon's in this lineup, right?
I don't think so.
I just don't think there's anyone you could replace.
We have so much infield depth that, I mean, does he play outfield? I can't remember.
He can, yeah, but he mostly plays second base. Yeah, but he can play outfield too, for sure. He's pretty versatile. I think he's going to continue to be the fan of the team on the bench. He's the ultimate hype man, as he says it.
Keep him in the dugout. Those glue guys are so underrated and so important to keeping the team focused and together. If he's providing that energy, keep that man right where he is.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing we're going to wait on is who's in this lineup, who's not, and who's starting this game. I do think that we find out the starting pitcher for tomorrow's game by the end of today, by Friday night. But I don't think we see the lineup until definitely Saturday morning. It might be Saturday morning by the time we hear who the starting pitcher is. I do think we'll hear that before we see the lineup go in, because they love to just wait till the last second. It'll be like, all right, 3, 2, 1, countdown of when the deadline of having that roster in, and they will be jumping and throwing it to the MLB because they want to wait as long as possible to make sure Royce Lewis or Buxton, everybody's healthy. But anyway, let's transition. I think before we go, we're going to take a look at some bets. This is not actual advice on money lines or anything like that. No gambling advice, but we want to see what they're looking at and kind of some of the prop bets that we like, and where we think they're wrong based on our, viewers as Twins fans specifically. But overall, before we look at some of the prop bets and things like that, Alex, how are you feeling? We've got Minnesota's batting order we talked about. We know the Houston batting order. We know some of those stars that are in there. We know the starting pitching lineup that they've got. They're going to be going, Verlander, Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, Hunter Brown, and we've got our 5. Of the offense, let's do offense, defense, starting pitching, and bullpen. Of those 4, let's rank whether or not you think the Twins have the advantage or a disadvantage. Starting with the offense, how do you feel about the offense here? Advantage Twins or Houston?
I'm going to have to give Houston the edge on this one. I mean, the Twins, I think top to bottom, like we were saying earlier, have a lot more depth, but you got that star power. You got that experience on the Houston side. I think I give an advantage to them. I think they've proven it a bit more, but I mean, if guys like Royce Lewis, Wallner, Correa finds his stride, I think you're looking at a pretty scary Twins lineup as well. I don't think they're too far off.
Right. Yeah. I think they're getting close for sure. But I agree with you. I think you still got to give the edge to Houston on that. I know I already talked about the bullpen, so I'll tackle that one next. I think you give the bullpen advantage to Minnesota. They've shown that they can be locked down. If you get to the 9th with Duran, you're in trouble. And I know we're in trouble if we face Ryan Presley, but he doesn't throw 105, 106 miles an hour with a curveball that's 91. I mean, that's just incredible. And if Griffin Jacks can continue to show the stuff that he was showing, Louis Varland, you're going to see Chris Paddock pitch in one of these games on this weekend, I think. You're going to see Emilio Pagan. You might even see Fonderbunk. I know he's a rookie. He's the one that kind of makes me a little bit nervous just because he hasn't been in big situations before. But you need that lefty. I think he'll be in this lineup because of that. More than anything, we just don't have a lot of lefty depth. I wish at the deadline, instead of trading Jorge Lopez for Dylan Floro, another right-handed for a right-handed, we should have probably traded for a lefty pitcher, and we didn't. We just made a straight-up trade, and we DFA'd Dylan Floro a couple weeks ago. So basically, this is the lineup that the Twins went into the season and said, we're going to be here, and then we're going to end up there. They didn't make any deadline trades, all just preseason. The one guy who's big missing from this, who was even at the, if you remember when they brought the new jerseys out, 1, you had Luis Ariz there. He's gone. 2, you had Jose Miranda. He was a big part of this team last year. You thought he's going to be locked in this lineup all season. He's not there right now, So this offense has changed a lot from what they thought. But again, back to what I was saying. I think you're right. Offense gets the advantage. Bullpen advantage Twins. What about starting pitching?
Yeah, I agree with you on the bullpen. We saw it in the Blue Jays series. The whole bullpen came out and just diced. So I'm feeling good about that. And just on paper, I think we're better than Houston in the bullpen as well. So I agree with you on that. Starters, I got to stay Twins too. I mean, you look at what they've done all season, and you got 5 guys that you can flip the rock to and be like, go get me 5 innings. There's no issues there.
Right.
You got a lot of security there, a lot more depth. Houston, I think Verlander and Javier are definitely 2 stud pitchers, but after that, it drops off pretty quick. So I'm going to go with the Twins again.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. It's got to be the Twins just because of the amount of depth that they have in this roster. But if Houston goes out there and takes a 2-0 lead because Verlander's amazing and Framber Valdez shuts us down, luckily we've got some better pitching and hopefully can pull out game 3 and 4 because you have to at that point.
Right.
And then on the defensive side, I think you give this advantage to Minnesota. Houston's defense is solid. Correa is better than Jose Pena. I think Altuve is obviously better at second. I think we have a better first baseman. You've got Matt Wallner with an absolute cannon in left field. Michael Taylor is just outstanding. Gold Glove should be every single year, and Kepler as well. Just a great glove, great arm. I think you give advantage to Minnesota on the defensive side of things. So, kind of sounds like we're going 3 to what? Twins have 3 to the Astros 1 in the advantage situation here. So, go Twins, right? All right, let's take a look at some money lines. What we've been waiting for. Again, no gambling advice here. We're just taking a look at kind of what the experts think of this game. If we're looking at the odds and the money line, I'll let you kind of go through this, Alex.
Yes, right off the bat, you see Houston a 156 favorite. I think on paper, yeah, even though we just broke down 3-1 Twins favor, I do agree. I think the Astros should be favored.
Well, especially at home. I mean, you got your home fans. I think if it's the other way around and Twins are home team with a better record, you got to favor them too. So
yeah, I do. Cole, what do you think about the over/under set at 8? Do you think where are you at?
Man, I don't know. I think for game 1, I think I would take the over on game 1. I know Verlander's great, but I still think, it depends on if we throw Ober out there or Joe Ryan, but I think game 1, I think it's going to be the over. I don't think it's going to be a straight up pitching duel. I think it's going to be a bullpen duel, which means that, you're racking up some runs. But, if you look at the first 2 games between Toronto and Minnesota, add up the scores and you got a 5-1. So you got a total of 8 or 6, right? So I don't know. What do you think?
I think I'm going to disagree with you on this one. I'm kind of feeling the under. Verlander's been there. He's done that. I think he pitches a good game. I think if we get Ober out there too, I mean, that's just a recipe for success and not a lot of runs. So I think I'm going to take the under. Like you said, we haven't seen it in the series yet. Yes, this Houston offense is a lot better than Toronto, but I still like the under in this one. And if you know me, I hate taking unders. So
well,
life's too short to bet the under.
I feel like you just did it to disagree with me, but no.
Whoa, never. I would, yeah, that's why. But on to the next one.
No, I could see that too. I mean, I don't think I would bet on the over-under on this one, to be honest. I think that would be a tough pick at 8. If it was set at 5, I would feel much more comfortable taking the over. And if the under was set at 9, I would feel better there too. 8 is a great pick, whoever set that one up. Again, no betting advice, just
not gambling
just
advice.
Going through some picks here.
But if you had to put all of the money in your account on one Twins batter, any of their player props, where are you going? I'll start it off here. I love Carlos Correa over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. I think it's the revenge game. He's in Houston for the first time in the playoffs. Like, I love it. Let's hammer that one. I feel a little sneaky home run coming from him.
Yeah, I like that pick. I mean, you got He's a right-handed hitter. I think that's a good idea. I think, man, I don't know who I would take. I feel like I'm really feeling like if Edward Julian is in this lineup, he's due for a big game. He can crack things open like you've never seen before. He's a righty, right? I believe
I feel
so.
like
I just don't want to pick any
lefty.
lefties. I don't want to pick any lefties against. Yeah, let me double check here. While I look that up, I don't want to pick any lefties, against Verlander. I think he's just too lights out against them. Otherwise, once you get to that bullpen, if there's a right-handed hitter against Kepler, I think both Kepler and Julian are going to have some breakout games in this series, whether it's game 1 or 2, I don't know, but I would probably take Edward Julian probably over. I don't know if it's set at 0.5 or 1.5 for base hits, but I think he'll have 2 hits in this first game.
I like it. Due. Probably get some good odds on that line too.
I would hope so. Are you looking at Sleeper for some of those odds too?
Well, that's just one of the. Usually they run that prop on. Sleeper underdog prize picks. But
I would take the under on Yordan Alvarez because I think the Twins are going to work their game plan around him. I know Kyle Tucker is very threatening too. Kyle Tucker more reminds me though of like a Bo Bichette type where you're just like, we got to keep guys off base before he comes up. That's the most important situation, or pick Vladdy off at second when he's at bat. No, I'm just kidding. But I really think a lot of this game plan, a lot of the pitching moves you're going to see is going to really revolve around Yordan Alvarez. And I think that's going to negatively impact him, even though he's an amazing hitter. During the season, you're even a way better hitter because guys aren't getting pulled just because it's the 4th inning and they're coming up to face you, where I don't think Rocco's going to hesitate, especially in this first game, to really make sure he has the right pitcher, the right sequencing set up for Yordan Alvarez, because that guy, he can ruin your season. He can break open this entire thing. He reminds me of a David Ortiz type, and someone who you get him up in any situation. I don't care if it's the bottom of the 9th and you're down by 6 runs. If there's 2 guys on, he's going to hit a 3-run home run. He's just always dangerous. More than anyone in this roster, he scares me. But I'm going to take the under because I believe in this bullpen. I believe in this starting pitching, and I believe in Rocco as much as I can. I really think he's going to game plan Yordan Alvarez very hard, maybe even see him walk a lot. I don't see anything wrong with putting him on to have to face Kyle Tucker even. I just don't want to see Yordan Alvarez break this series for the Twins. So I'm going to go ahead and just take the under on that. I should hedge my bet probably and take the over, but
Are you thinking like fantasy points, total bases, hits?
I'm thinking total. I don't know if I want to say hits. Let's say I think he's going to have less than 1.5 hits in the first game. Bet. Yep. Which, I mean, I don't know if I'd say it's a safe bet, but because he could easily have 4 hits with 2 home runs. He's just so good. Yeah, unbelievable. But
he's going to be one of their game changers for sure.
Yeah, I think he's only like 25 yet still too. So he's right in his prime. He's dealt with some injuries this year, but he's here and he's not going anywhere. And he scares me more than Verlander, more than Framber Valdez, more than Kyle Tucker. When Yordan Alvarez is up, my hands will be sweating. That's for sure. But I think all of us are going to be on the edge of our seats for this entire series. This is going to be a good one. And I think a lot of people, like you said, America, Canada, they're all back in the Twins right now, not only because we're the underdogs in this situation, in most people's minds. I think they're backing us because, one, they hate the Astros because of 2017 and because the Astros won it all last year. So you got to cheer for the team that just finally won their first series in 21 years. So I'm hoping that there are people watching this podcast that maybe are brand new Twins fans. Maybe this playoff series, this playoff run creates some new Twins fans. Maybe we pull some Houston fans even. Who knows? that are Correa fans that came along with him. I just feel very good going into this, and I really hope that every podcast that we're making for the next 5, 6, 7 days is very positive, and we don't have to come on here and say, well, Minnesota sports has done it again. I am dreading that would happen, but I feel good. I think if there's ever a time that you can beat the team that won the World Series last year, this is the opportunity. This is the team to do it. This is the best Twins team I've ever seen in my life. This is better than the Bomba squad. This is better than the team that made it all the way to the ALCS against the Angels. This is the team. These are the guys to do it. And if you win this game or you win this series, you go on to face either Baltimore or Texas. Neither of those teams freak me out too much. I think Texas offense is amazing. Baltimore is super young. They're kind of in the same situation as the Twins. Neither have been there in a long time. So anything can happen in a championship series. This is the make or break for the Twins. They have to find a way to win at least one game in Houston before coming home.
Yeah,
but anyway,
stealing that home field advantage would be huge, but they got a lot of support behind them, and let's go win this thing.
I wish I could just buy a ticket, go down to Houston and watch this game, but I can't, so we'll be watching it. We'll be podcasting before the game or after the game. Just make sure you subscribe. We'll be posting it at some time. Anyway, go Twins, and we hope everybody backs them as much as we are. Thanks for watching.
Go Twins.